Etymology and historical origin of the baby name Deirdre. Deirdre is a name that comes down to us from Irish mythology. Its ancient Gaelic version is typically rendered as Derdriu. The name's meaning isn't entirely certain, but many etymologies believe it's derived from a very old Celtic word meaning, quite simply, woman. Often referred to Deirdre of the Sorrows, hers is a tragic love story. Best remembered as the ill-fated wife of Ulster's illustrious King Conchobar, Deirdre would ultimately die of a broken heart. Here's how it all went down. One day King Conchobar attended a celebratory feast in his honor given by Femlin, one of his lords of Ulster. During the merriment, a messenger arrived with news that Femlin's wife had just given birth to a baby girl. As the men drank to the baby's health, a druid was sent to predict the child's future. The druid revealed that the baby would grow to be the fairest of all the women of Ireland, but that she would marry a king and bring ruin upon the kingdom of Ulster. As a precautionary measure, King Conchobar decided to take the baby, whom he named Deirdre, hide her safely away and make her his own wife when she reached marriageable age. This way, no foreign king could have her and the kingdom of Ulster would be thus protected. Or so he thought. As Deirdre grew older and the wedding day neared, she became repulsed by the aged king who was to become her husband. Instead, she fell in love with the king's nephew, a handsome warrior named Nawaz. At first, Nawaz tried to reject the girl's advances, knowing she was promised to the king, but her beauty overpowered him. The two young lovers eloped and escaped to Scotland, where they lived blissfully in exile. Conchobar was having none of this, however, so he tricked the couple into returning to Ulster under the guise of forgiveness. Of course, he immediately had Nawaz put to death for his treason. Deirdre was forced to marry Conchobar, but she steadfast refused to look at him or even smile for a year. When the king finally asked her what she hated most of all, she answered, "Thou thyself." And Eogan son of Duracht, Eogan being the king's servant who had killed Nawaz. Whether as an act of malicious revenge or a reaction to his own wounded pride, Conchobar sentenced Deirdre to be with Eogan for a year. On her way to her next cruel fate, Deirdre threw herself out of the chariot, hurled her head against a rock, and died instantly, effectively ending her own long suffering. According to Irish legend, two yew trees sprung from the separate gravesites of Deirdre and Nawaz and grew so tall that their limbs intertwined over either side of a church, remaining together for eternity. King Conchobar's ruthless treatment of Deirdre and Nawaz doesn't exactly cast him in the most attractive of lights. It was his desire for Deirdre that proved his ultimate downfall. Just as the druid forewarned. In any case, you gotta love the Irish for their colorful mythologies. Personality of the girl named Deirdre. The number 9 personality represents the completion or ending of the cycle, and a need for perfection. This is the personality that moves from self to a greater understanding and compassion for the human condition and the world order. They want to make the world a better place. 9s are capable of great spiritual and humanitarian achievements. They are courageous and fearless, able to fight great battles on behalf of worthy causes. These personalities will not tolerate injustice. They are compassionate people with a strong sensitivity to others. They are able to both educate and inspire. Friendships and relationships are the lifeblood to the 9, and they place a high value on love and affection. 9s are often exceptionally gifted artistically, and they have a keen imagination and enterprising mind. Popularity of the girl named Deirdre. This womanly Irish name first appeared on the U.S. female naming charts in 1944. The name saw respectable increases up the charts in its first 15 years or so, achieving position number 333 in 1961, her highest ever. However, the name started to falter by the 1970s and 80s, and in 1991 completely disappeared from circulation. Deirdre is a name that's been off the American radar for over 20 years now. Yet we find it an attractive choice, original and underused, too long neglected in our book. Deirdre epitomizes what it means to be an Irish woman, strong, feisty, stubborn, decisive and beautiful, with a hint of melancholy. A great name choice for any Irish American baby girl, or for anyone who appreciates the colorfulness of Celtic folklore. Quick facts on Deirdre. Gender, girl. Origin, Celtic. Number of syllables, 2. Ranking popularity, not applicable. Pronunciation, Derdr. Simple meaning, woman. Characteristics of Deirdre. Independent, philanthropy, perfection, intuitive, oneness, idealistic, multi-talented. Cultural references to the baby name, Deirdre. Literary characters of the baby name Deirdre. Deirdre also figures in John Millington Synge's 1910 play, Deirdre of the Sorrows, first performed at the famous Abbey Theatre in Dublin. The play, which was unfinished when the playwright died in 1909, was completed by his fiancée and William Butler Yeats. In this version, as well, Deirdre is a willful woman who, although she knows of the prophecy that she will be responsible for his death, persuades Naos, herein called Nisai, first to marry her and then to return from Scotland to Ireland to a certain death at Conchubar's hands. He follows her to that very end indeed, and Deirdre, unwilling to let Conchubar have her at all, stabs herself with a dagger and falls into Nisai's grave. This is no wilting beauty, to be sure. Deirdre of the Sorrows, indeed, but the sorrows are shared all around. Deirdre is a tragic figure in pre-Christian Irish mythology, often referred to as Deirdre of the Sorrows, and she is depicted in William Butler Yeats' 1906 play, Deirdre. In the myth, Deirdre, who is predicted before her birth to be extraordinarily beautiful, is abducted at birth by Conchubar, the king of Ulster, who wants her for himself. She falls in love with a handsome warrior, Naos, but their love is doomed. Naos is murdered by a henchman of the king takes Deirdre for his own, but she eventually commits suicide in her grief. Yeats takes her tale in another direction, making her into as fierce a warrior woman as her lover. She brazenly stands up to Conchubar and refuses to marry him, bringing sure death upon herself. Her death is self-engineered, however, as she defiantly uses it as a grand gesture of resistance and non-submission. Popular songs on Deirdre. Deirdre, a song by the Beach Boys. Famous people named Deirdre. Deirdre O'Connell, actress, Deirdre Bear, author/biographer, Deirdre Barrett, Harvard psychologist, Deirdre Lovejoy, actress.